I'm gonna do the vanilla and rosemary Crémeux. We're gonna do a half batch, which means for the gelatin, we need about 5 grams. Each gelatin sheet is about 2 grams. We're doing such a small quantity. You know what? I'm gonna do a 2.5. That it's not too much. So I'm gonna do 2.5 sheets of gelatin. So I'm gonna just cut this little gelatin guy in half. And I'm just finishing up the mise en place. So I have a sheet pan. I've lined it with some parchment paper, and I have these containers that I actually stole from a friend. Now they came in this little box. They were actually filled with, I don't know, like mousse or something. They were from Costco. So I saw these and I was like, told my friend, hey, can you save these for me? I think I can use them. So that's what we're using today. You can use really anything. You can use little bowls. You can use shot glasses. We're gonna send you guys home with some foil cups so you can use those. But that is what we're gonna be using. I'm gonna put that aside and we're gonna start the recipe. The first thing that we're gonna do is we have our mise en place together. We have 1.7 ounces of sugar. We have our 2 gelatin sheets, 2.5. I have 4 ounces of heavy cream in here and 4 ounces of milk. 4 ounces of heavy cream, 4 ounces of milk. Let's see. Is the camera good? Yeah. I also have a pinch of salt, which is about 1/16 of a teaspoon. I always use these teaspoons that I got on Amazon, and yeah, it actually has a pinch on here, but it's really like 1/16 of a teaspoon, so I always measure mine out. I have my vanilla extract. So we're not going to use vanilla bean. We're actually going to use vanilla extract, and we're going to use 1/2 teaspoon. I have my chopped rosemary. Ooh, I have my chopped rosemary right here. And I also have my egg yolks. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to bloom the gelatin. Gelatin is used to add body to really anything, but it's usually like a custard. And we're going to bloom this gelatin in cold water. Sometimes you'll see people put their gelatin sheets in ice water. I'm just gonna put mine in very cold water. That's our creme brulee. So we're gonna check on our creme brulee right now. Ooh, it is almost there. Let's see, about 10 more minutes. We're gonna let that hang out, and basically these gelatin sheets are gonna get really soft. They're almost all the way there. Once you feel the gelatin and it's not hard anymore, it's just kind of like gooey. I don't know if you can see this really. Yeah, there we go. It's really kind of weird. Once it's all the way soft, I'm gonna wring that out. The recipe calls for 1 ounce. Nope, that's the other recipe. So it just calls for you to soak the gelatin in a little bit of water. We're gonna use gelatin sheets. You can also use powdered gelatin, but for our recipe today, we're gonna use gelatin sheets. All right, the first thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna combine the cream, the milk, and a little bit of the sugar in a saucepan over medium heat. And we're gonna bring this to a boil. Very, very, very similar to what we did with the creme brulee. Little bit of the sugar. Okay, I'm gonna give this a quick little stir. Oh, I already have my thing. And we're just gonna let that hang out and come up to a boil. It's gonna melt the sugar and it's gonna prep everything for the rest of the ingredients. Then what we're gonna do, again, very similar to the creme brulee, we're gonna take our eggs and the rest of the sugar. We're gonna whisk this up, and then we're gonna temper again. So give it a really good whisk. It's gonna loosen up those egg yolks a little bit. We're also gonna add our rosemary to our sugar. To our sugar and our milk. And once this comes to a simmer, we're gonna take it off the heat and let it steep for about 15 minutes. heat down a little. What that does is it infuses the flavors of the rosemary and the oils in the rosemary with the milk and the heavy cream. And that's gonna give our Crémeux a really nice, deep, and complex flavor. It's gonna be really good for the holidays. I know it's like still hot right now, but hopefully once the fall rolls around, you guys can make this for some of your friends and family. All right, our gelatin's probably good now. I hope you guys can see this, it's so funny. So it's just like a blob, like a jellyfish blob. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna wring it out. So you're gonna squeeze it in your hands. Now don't let your gelatin sit for too long. Maybe keep an eye on it, because if it does sit too long, it will just kind of disintegrate, which is not good. And then you won't be able to use it. All right. Once the milk comes off, we're gonna add the vanilla. And are we supposed to add the salt? Yeah, the salt goes in here too. All right, this is just about simmering. What I like to do on my recipes, even though, all right, it's simmering, so we're gonna turn off the heat. We're gonna let this sit for 15 minutes. So some people, when they're doing their recipes, well, this is what I do when I do my recipes, is, hopefully you can see this. I try to make notes and draw lines on the different steps. So like the gelatin is by itself, and I have my conversions right here. So need we actually did 2.5 sheets of the gelatin. And then I do little brackets. So milk, heavy cream, sugar, salt, vanilla, rosemary, all go together. And then the eggs and half of the sugar goes together. So that's what I do to help myself to try to remember what ingredients go into what order. And then I mark under each of the steps. And those are like the major steps. This one, all the steps are like, you know, number 1 is one thing, number 2 is a second thing, but not all the recipes are like that. All right, other things that we have set up for our mise en place. I have my strainer. I'm gonna strain that back into here. Let's give this a good rinse. The milk mixture, heavy cream, and the milk have been steeping with the rosemary, the salt, and a little bit of the sugar for about 15 minutes. We're gonna go ahead and turn the heat onto medium and bring that up to a boil. Once that boils all the way, we're gonna temper it into these egg yolks and give this a little bit of a stir. And we're gonna add in the vanilla. We're gonna strain everything. And then while the mixture is still hot, we're gonna add in our gelatin. Now, sometimes when you add in gelatin, if you add it to something cold, you have to melt the gelatin. But since we're adding it to something that's gonna be warm, we don't really have to do any of that to the gelatin. Because this hot milk mixture is actually going to go ahead and melt the gelatin by itself, just with the heat that it has. All right, so once this milk has come up to a boil, we're gonna temper it into the egg yolks. We're gonna do this about, half at a time. And again, tempering is just slowly bringing up one liquid to the temperature of another. gonna go ahead and strain this. You know what, I'm gonna put my gelatin in. I'll put it in after. Straining this is gonna take out any of the egg that is solid, and it'll also strain out our chopped rosemary that we had. You can see a little bit of the cooked egg right there too. All right, we're gonna add in our gelatin. We're gonna give that a good whisk. I'm actually gonna use a little bit smaller of a whisk so I can get a better idea of the consistency of this. Sometimes when you're adding gelatin to a mixture, it's a good idea to use an immersion blender or a stick blender to just really make sure that all of the gelatin has fully dissolved. But I'm running my whisk through this and I'm picking it up. I'm not feeling any sort of little pieces of gelatin or anything. The last step that we're gonna do is add in our vanilla. Give that a nice stir. And then we're going to pour these into our cups. Now again, if I did have, you know what I am gonna do actually, I'm gonna skim off the bubbles that are on the top of this, just because we're gonna go straight into the fridge with these. And I don't want these bubbles to be on the top of the Crémeux. So just as many of the bubbles as you can get off. It'll make for a better product in the end. We're gonna pour these into the molds. We're gonna wrap it, and I'm gonna put these into the fridge first, and then eventually we'll transfer them to the freezer. If you want your molds to all have really the same equal amount of product in them, what you can do is put each one on a scale and scale it to the appropriate amount. Oops, I'm not gonna do that here just because, you know, this is just for us. Also, something that I'm kind of doing incorrectly, the best way to work when you're filling molds is really to work from left to right so that you're not working over yourself. And that's just gonna help you, it's good technique, and it's gonna help make sure that you're not dripping over any filled product. There's our creme brulee. All right. So we're gonna divide these evenly. What I'm going to do for these Crémeux first is I'm gonna loosely cover them with plastic wrap, just so they can start to chill. Once they start to set up, I will take them out and individually wrap them, and it'll be a lot easier to store them that way. And it looks like I forgot to make a place in the fridge. My fridge is super disorganized right now, don't judge me. So these are gonna go right in here and hang out. It's been about 9 hours, and I'm gonna take out the Crémeux. And I'm also gonna just take out the panna cotta too. Do both these baddies at the same time. So as you can see, they have totally set up. And what I wanna do is give it a little bit of a garnish. What you can do is put a little whipped cream on here, but I don't really feel like making any whipped cream. Actually, this knife is too big. I don't feel like making any whipped cream, and also the whole dessert is made of cream, so I don't want to add more cream to it. But one super easy, kind of elegant, a little old school decor that you can do is just fan a strawberry. So as you can see, I just put a couple little diagonal slices in the strawberry. You can set up right on there. You know, I'm gonna actually cut this in half because it's a little big. When you're selecting strawberries, like I have a really big one in here, I have a smaller one, medium-sized one, smaller one. I'm gonna choose the smallest one to kind of set right in there. And I'm gonna choose the strawberry that is the appropriate size. You can decorate this with anything, with fresh berries. Like I said, whipped cream. You can do like a shortbread cookie or a twill or anything like that. All right, and then this one is the Rosemary Vanilla Crémeux. Same thing, has a really nice setup. It's a really smooth, soft texture. And you can just taste a little bit of hint of the rosemary. It's delicious. Both of these desserts are excellent for summertime. Cool. And that's it. Really easy, quick desserts, cheap desserts too. Not very expensive to make. And you probably have a lot of these ingredients just laying around your house. All right, thanks for watching, guys.